Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I am trying the best I can to get some things going, and for some reason, the light just started shining off the neighbor's windows, so it's glaring right into my eyeballs. But I want to thank you to our second music and little recording session. I hope that you are ready for something a little bit different than last week. What I'm going to be doing is live stuff with hardware. You'll see that I have a couple of different cameras set up. I have this camera which will spend most of the time looking at the back of my head and allowing you to see me work the controls. And then I have this other camera with the main screen that shows the gear. And for gear, I have an ARP 2600, which is the main synthesis engine. I have a little sidecar of stuff that's mostly CV processors and effects processors that I use. I have a norns from monome and a monome grid that I use for a looping system. I have a little Keith McMillan keyboard that I use for actually entering notes. And then finally, I have this Akai MPC-1 that right now all it does is it translates the keyboard presses into the notes for the ARP 2600. So the bottom line is what I'm going to be doing is basically kind of in the mode of some of my kind of heroes. I think of guys like Charles Cohen, who worked with a very small modular Buchla system in combination with loopers. And he did things very rhythmically. I don't. But it was this idea of building structures using loopers and having that be sort of like the creation process. So I'm going to end up doing two pieces. The first one is going to be relatively simple. You're going to see me use the norns and the grid in its kind of most basic state of capturing loops and then on the fly doing little mixing to bring out different parts to increase and decrease the effect of certain kinds of sounds and stuff. So it's the first one's going to be relatively simple, and then I'll talk about the second one before we get into it. So I'm going to just unplug the mic and jump into it. Okay, so that was just a short and sweet little something, kind of showing the basics of this system in action. What you can see is that what I'm doing is I'm kind of building up all the tracks, piece at a time, trying to find things that work to each other. And then also with most looping software, what can happen is you get just like this overwhelming wash of stuff. So a big part of playing with it is actually then pulling things out or manipulating them a little bit on the fly. Now, in that case, what I was mostly doing was just capturing sound and then playing back the layers of sound and working with it that way. In the next piece, what I'm going to try doing is play around with some of the functions of this particular sketch on the norns. The norns runs these little things called sketches. They're little mini programs that interact with the grid. And this one is called MLR. I've actually modified it a little bit for my own use. But it has some functions for allowing you to work with subsets of the sample and also for working with with pitch changes and animating pitch changes. And all of these things can work either in a groove or outside of the groove. And so I'm actually going to play around a little bit with doing things that are a little off kilter in terms of rhythmic overlay. I do that by kind of playing around with tempo and length during the process of recording. But you'll get a sense of how it allows us to add some complexity or some of the things that are, to me, are kind of vital about music. The sense of there being a conversation going on while you're playing, some of those kinds of things. So we're gonna take a try. All this stuff is improv, so if I blow it, I blow it. But we'll see where it takes us. And again, I'll be using the little sidecar system here, primarily as an effects processor. I have both a digital delay and a thing called a monsoon, which is a small version of the clouds that's made by Mutable Instruments. And so I use those quite a bit for sort of like destructive sound manipulation. But also, with the 2600, it's a very complex instrument, but you'll notice I don't have a lot of patching on the machine itself. It's a modular system, but so much stuff is pre-patched, and all of these sliders allow you to kind of attenuate the patch points. So it's actually a very complex, already existing patch. And I have this one patch cable that I'll be using for a portion of this next piece. But you'll see that I don't need to do a lot of patching like you see with a typical modular system. Instead, I repatch and I repurpose things by manipulating the sliders on this machine. So with that, I have kind of cleared everything out. Let me very quickly do a little bit of setup to make sure that I have all my volumes in place, and we will kick off the next piece. And while I'm playing, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the text. I won't be able to look at them while I'm playing, but it'll give me something to kind of latch on to when I get back to looking. Okay, so I'm going to unplug the mic and do a second piece. Okay, so there's the story, and I'm sticking to it. That's let me take a look at the notes. Okay, first of all, Gregory asked, the delay line in your little analog rack isn't connected or synced in any way with the norns, right? No, it's not. And in fact, it's a relatively newish thing. Normally, I would use tap tempo, but instead, I just kind of tuned it by ear. I actually have this little dot here in the corner is actually a little push button, and I can use that as a tap tempo for the delay unit if I need to. But otherwise, no, it's not connected. Yeah, it does. The 2600 does have a really unique sound, and again, it seems very simple to work with because I don't have to juggle 900 patch cables. But there's a lot of complexity to it, and also even in the heat of battle, sometimes, like that time I was going for the filter slider, and I actually grabbed the pitch slider. Oh well, that's part of the fun, I guess. So there you go. Yeah, working with bringing in melodies is something that I actually consider doing this, because realistically, working with a looper like in this way, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for harmony. So if you want to do something that's kind of has a real more traditional music flavor, you end up really leaning on melody a lot. So that is kind of one of the shticks that I do. I have a tendency to either build little components like those little Twitter things, or work on melodies and then bring them back in and out. So that's kind of how I like working. Well, there's no room for mistakes, but on the other hand, I'm not super adventurous in terms of doing harmonic changes, and so that gives me a pretty wide safety zone when I'm working. That is the work I was going to do for this evening. I just wanted to do those two pieces. One, a very simple looper. A second one showing some of the animation in action. Because especially with those like very twittery parts that I did on the front end, it was really quite... It was really quite simple to just kind of make it a lot more complex than I had originally played it. Battle Napkin asks, how configurable is the patch system under the hood? It's not at all. But what there is that, like, it has 3 oscillators, but each oscillator kind of has a different voicing. So one of them is really oriented towards robust square waves. The second one has a sine wave, and often you'll use as an LFO. The third one, it's just kind of the most convenient to get at, so it tends to be a real playable one. So that was key. The only thing, this wire right here just hooked up the second envelope to the oscillator pitch, so that for those little blippy bird tones, it would give us the little pitch modulation, which was really easy to work with. Yeah, thanks. That having a sense of play is actually really key to me enjoying doing it at all. And so that's what it is. So what does the patch cord do? This patch cord goes from the output of the A&R envelope into one of the pitch modulation inputs for oscillator 3. So it's a real simple envelope modulation, but it's just enough. And, actually, I think pitch modulation is something a lot of people don't use. So when you do hear it, it tends to really stick out and capture people's attention. So that's my little performance. I want to thank everybody for attending. Thank you so much to Jason for helping me get all this stuff operational. Thanks to Amazon for delivering all of the camera stuff that it took to make this going. And thanks a lot for listening. I had a lot of fun playing. This is kind of an extension of what my daily playing practice is anyway, so you kind of got a chance to see me do the thing that I do. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me at darwin.grosse@gmail.com or at ddg@cycling74.com. Thank you so much, everybody. And that's going to wrap up the stream for today. Thank you so much. Bye now.